After edging us all for about 6 whole years, the long-awaited life simulation game Paralives has finally burst onto the scene. It exploded everywhere.
Okay.
Shot a big load all over the life sim genre. If you're not getting the pun at this point, just click off. You probably shouldn't be watching anyway. Truly though, Paralives is serving big dick energy. Within 24 hours, it sold 250,000 copies and reached nearly 80,000 concurrent players on Steam. Let me tell you, the Paralives team is raking in those coins at this point, giving Mario a run for his money. Alex Massey, I don't know if you're in the market for a sugar baby, but what's up?
Okay.
The hype is real, the game is out, and all those Paralives is a scam people look real dumb right about now. But the question still remains, does Paralives actually have what it takes to achieve longevity within the life sim genre? Can this little indie game actually compete with behemoths like The Sims and Inzoi? Or is Paralives just a flash in the Parapan? Very important disclaimer before we continue, this video is not a review. I am not a game critic, nor do I claim to be. I'm just a white guy with a microphone and internet access. By the way, IGN reviewed it recently, gave it a 7 out of 10, not too shabby. However, Paralives is an incomplete early access game, so I don't feel comfortable doing a review, but I am going to give you my first impressions, the good and the bad, of course, and then we're going to get into some of the controversies with this game, because somehow there's a lot of fucking drama. And I didn't start it. Also, just to be clear, I bought this game myself. I did not receive a free code or a review copy. I'm also not a Paralives partner or whatever. As a matter of fact, I'm not partnered with anyone, and I'm sick of being reminded of that. So let us proceed with my no strings attached, unfiltered opinion. Last year, when that other life simulation game, Inzoi, was released, I had a lot of criticism about how shallow and soulless it felt, because while Inzoi has a lot of cool, flashy features, it's also really surface level, kind of like your typical K-pop idol. They look pretty on the outside, but God forbid you dig a little deeper, and I think they might even be AIs, some of them. I don't know. With Inzoi, it kind of felt like the developers were more focused on giving players a large quantity of half-baked features over giving them actual quality gameplay. But with Paralives, it's kind of the opposite. I found the features in Paralives, while limited, to be more detailed and fleshed out. For example, the world, called Molino, isn't exceptionally large. It's only a little bit bigger than your typical Sims 4 world. But what it's lacking in sheer scale, it makes up for in quality details. The world of Molino is charming, it's comforting, and dare I say, it's a bit romantic. Okay, I might just be describing myself there. Alex, please call me. There's a bustling city center, parks, a beach, farmland, and while it's all very compact, it's also not lacking. No matter where you are in Molino, you can find NPCs hanging out, social distancing, doing yoga. With Paralives, we're far removed from those empty lots in The Sims 3's open worlds. And unlike Inzoi's sprawling, realistic worlds, Paralives has its own unique identity. It doesn't feel like a lifeless imitation of a real city or like one big set. Sims 4. And overall, I feel like Paralives' world is one of its biggest selling points. Obviously, the fact that it's an open world doesn't hurt, but it's also thanks to Paralives' amazing environmental design. There's been a lot of talk about this game's art style, particularly when it comes to the characters themselves. I heard there's even a mod that kind of tones down the painterly style of the Paras. I personally don't feel strongly about that one way or the other, but I found the environmental art style to be rather majestic. You can tell that the developers put a lot of thought and care into designing this world of Paralives, and it shows. From the architecture to the parks to the interiors, there's a lot of character here. I also cannot stress enough how amazing, incredible, fantastic, brilliant the music is in Paralives. Andre Castagnan, who's the composer, did an exceptional job. I love the theme song. The entire soundtrack is awesome. I love the little melodies that play when your character experiences something. And to me, it's that human touch where Paralives really shines. The voices, the sound effects, the art, the music, everything in this game was handcrafted over the course of 6 years by a small team of people. Paralives, for all of its flaws, proudly showcases its humanity and the talent talent of the people who work on this team. They very easily could have relied on a language model to generate dialogue options or use generative AI to create art in the game, but they didn't, and that's commendable. Now, when it comes to gameplay, the character creator and the build mode are by far the strongest here. If you're someone who plays The Sims or Inzoi just to create characters and build and decorate, then I think you would have a blast with Paralives. In those areas, I surprisingly found Paralives to be a lot less restrictive than its competitors. When it comes to building and decorating, for instance, there's really not much you can't do. You can place objects anywhere you want to, you can scale sofas and tables and beds just by dragging them, you can curve walls, resize windows. When it comes to building and decorating, the game really hands you the reins. It's a similar story with the Paramaker. There's a huge amount of customization options, and I was kinda overwhelmed by all the choices, to be honest. But if you are a player who likes to be really meticulous and wants to be able to create literally any type of character you want, I think you'll be very happy with what Paralives has to offer. I'm not someone who particularly cares what my characters look like, but one thing I do care a lot about is personalities, and the approach that they use in Paralives is pretty interesting. At the beginning, you can assign up to 7 points to physique, mind, creativity, and charisma, as well as choose a vibe, a social perk, and a talent for each character. All of these choices have an effect on your career, social interactions, and even your needs. For example, certain vibes are more suited for certain careers, and you can also unlock new social interactions depending on your para's personality. But in terms of whether these traits affect how your character behaves autonomously, there's really not much there. In fact, it's when we actually press play and get into the whole simulating life aspect of Paralives where the game's limitations start to show. The basics are there. You have needs, careers, relationships, skills. I was able to create a character and live out her life just like we do in The Sims. She got a job at the museum, she paints in her free time, she saved up a ton of money to buy her dream house, and just recently she met this man with a questionable mustache with whom she fell in love, got married, and had a baby. Not in that order either, but we don't judge. That baby is now a child who goes to school and has homework, and this character that I started this playthrough with is now nearing the end of her life. So the basics of a life simulation game are certainly there, and even with it being an early access, I was quite impressed by how engaged I was playing this game. And bro, that is a lot coming from me. I got brain rot, ADHD, a crippling porn addiction. That last one was an inside thought, and I was not supposed to say it out loud. But anyway, despite all that, the gameplay loop of Paralives had me hooked. I can't stress enough that I really do see the vision of this game. The foundation is solid, and there is a real possibility that this game could grow into something that rivals The Sims 2 and 3, the Sims games I love. But for anyone who's looking for a fleshed out and fulfilling life simulation experience, Paralives still has a very long way to go.
They see me rolling, they hate it.
I want to start off by saying, Paralives fans, I see you, I hear you, but please don't be weird. I don't know what's in the water with the life sim cozy game crowd, but the propensity for players to be super defensive and parasocial about games is off the charts. While this is an early access game, it's also a product that they're selling to people, so we have to be able to hear criticism of the game without getting offended on the game's behalf. Because I've already seen so many people online saying, Paralives fans are crazy. They're going feral anytime someone criticizes the game. And I personally do not want a repeat of the same behavior we saw with Inzoi fans last year. I still have PTSD from Inzoi stans. They scare the fuck out of me. I even had some of them call me an EA shill. Me of all people. And one guy even said he reported me to Inzoi in hopes I get sued. Getting sued, being an EA shill, I don't know which one's more terrifying. Probably the latter. So just to be clear before I get into this section, defensiveness and toxic positivity help no one. We all lose when people try to shut down criticism. The players, the developers, the entire life sim genre, they need the feedback in order to improve this game, so we shouldn't try to shut it down just because it makes us uncomfortable. So I just want to be super clear to the Paralives defenders out there that just because it's early access doesn't mean it's immune from scrutiny. So just hear me out, listen to what I have to say, and if you're still mad at me at the end of the video, feel free to leave an angry comment. I think it helps with the algorithm, but it also really helps with my humiliation kink. So thank you in advance. Now that that's out of the way, the first thing I want to acknowledge is the inordinate amount of bugs. It is beyond anything I ever anticipated for an early access game I was about to call the Exterminator. To give you some examples, my para got stuck in labor for about 12 hours. Realistic, but it wasn't supposed to happen. I had to use a cheat to fix that. The toilet broke and 50 repairmen showed up to fix it. Several times I've opened menus such as the jobs menu, but then it just wouldn't close and I had to force quit my game. Paintings that my para made would vanish into thin air. Routing issues. The fun need kept appearing and then disappearing. I don't know if it was bugged out or if it was supposed to do that. Sometimes paras just wouldn't do what I told them to do. And the list goes on and on and on. Now, thankfully, none of these bugs were game breaking for me. I was able to resolve a lot of them by closing the game or using the in-game cheats option. And I know that the Paralives team is fully aware that the game is bugged. I think they received over 100,000 bug reports just a couple days after launch. So they're fully aware that the game is a buggy mess and they're going to be releasing patches, which is great. Again, we all know it's early access and nobody is expecting perfection, but I personally experienced way more bugs than I ever expected. And maybe it's not the case for everybody. I don't want to speak categorically. It could just be me. You know, the aura I gave off maybe just made the game nervous. I don't know. Yeah. But beyond that, one thing I've noticed is that there's a huge problem with autonomy in this game. The character AI is really unpolished. There's a ton of just standing around. For example, my para would automatically choose to go home after work, which was cool. But when she got home, she would just stand there in the doorway doing nothing for hours if I didn't tell her to do something. Even when it comes to socializing, after my para got married, I expected that she and her husband would just chat each other up, shoot the shit every now and then, but they didn't, unless I told them to do that. Beyond just playing on their phones and taking care of basic needs, the paras don't really do much in terms of autonomous interactions. The developers did a Q&A recently where they said that they're fully aware of this and they plan to work on it, but for now, it just makes the characters feel kind of lifeless when they're just constantly standing around and doing nothing. Another thing that I would love to see is more grit and challenge in Paralives. This is something that was a big negative for me with Inzoi, and I kind of figured, given the cozy vibe they were going with Paralives, that this would also be an issue with this game. And for me personally, I don't want to play a cookie cutter life sim. I'm not into the perfect family picket fence kind of vibe at all. And beyond a fire here and there and my para catching a cold at work, there wasn't really much in terms of challenge in this game. The needs are pretty easy to take care of. It's not hard to make money. Yes, there's bills that come once a week, but I was able to save up. I think this house cost 90,000 paradigms. It didn't take that long to do that. There's just not a ton of challenge overall. The good news is that they already appear to have a system in place that could expand upon this. When you start off, you can select a storyteller that determines the difficulty of your game. And I think that's really cool. It reminds me of RimWorld, and I've seen other people make that comparison as well. But even though I selected the most challenging storyteller, there was nothing about the game that was particularly difficult. I really think that just targeting the cozy game demographic is a mistake, because there's a lot of life sim players out there, especially ones who used to play The Sims 1 and 2, who yearn for a challenging life simulation experience. Part of the appeal of those games is that they could be really tough, especially at the beginning when you're just starting off. So if Paralives wants to appeal to players outside of the cozy demographic and the Sims 4 fans, they need to add some real challenge and grit to this game. I like the card system that's in the game. If you don't know, Paralives has this RPG-like mechanic that lets you control the fate of your paras by choosing cards. So there's career cards, there's like life goal cards, and social interaction cards. I do like some of what this system introduces, but I'm not entirely sold on it yet. I would also really love for the paras to have more meaningful personalities and to behave in a way that reflects those personalities. It's very important in life simulation games for players to be able to connect to their characters. And besides the personality and backstory I created in my own head, I didn't really feel a strong connection with my para in the way that I wanted to. All in all, Paralives does need a lot of work, and the developers are fully aware of that, but I definitely think I see more pros than cons. And that's not really something I expected to be able to sit here and say. But what I did expect is for this game to have a whole lot of drama surrounding it. Surprise! Paralives is already embroiled in controversy. One of the very first complaints I started seeing crop up about Paralives is the fact that every character in this game is coded as pansexual. There are no sexual orientations that you can choose from, so I guess some players were unhappy that they weren't able to create characters that were strictly straight or strictly dickly, because again, by default, everyone in the game is pansexual. They can fall in love and be attracted to anyone of any gender. I do understand from a storytelling perspective that this might bother some people, but I do feel like the approach that they went with by making everyone pansexual was a pretty good compromise, because you technically can romance anyone. It's not like they're limiting romance to any one orientation, which, for example, Inzoi did, because for about 2 months after that game's launch, literally every character, every NPC was purely straight by default. So if you had a gay character, they couldn't romance anyone in the town. Thankfully, they fixed that, but for a while there, Inzoi was a walk-in hate crime.
Then obviously it's a no for gay marriage. It's a no for them to have any rights whatsoever.
On the complete opposite end of the spectrum, there's a select group of people who are complaining about Paralives being too woke. Yes, the anti-woke degenerates have crawled out of their basement to make videos calling Paralives DEI slop or whatever. There's a lot of this on the Steam reviews, but I also saw a video of a guy claiming that Paralives is an industry plant created by the woke DEI mob.
It is a Sims-like game with seemingly an incredible amount of DEI features like raising clearly not your family.
I would hate to smell that room, I can tell you that. For the life of me, I cannot understand why people are mad that a life simulation game gives people the option to simulate real life ethnicities and genders and sexualities. I don't get it. Moving on to more rational criticism, as expected, there are a lot of people who feel like Paralives simply didn't live up to their expectations. I saw people posting screenshots of their refund request for the game, which is kind of extra, but I guess it's the internet. What else do we expect? I saw a lot of complaints about Paralives being bare bones. I saw complaints that the game is too expensive. That last one I do understand a bit. The whole $40 is too much argument is understandable because that is entirely subjective. For some people, $40 is a lot of money just to throw out for a game. I totally get that. But when you remember the Paralives team's promise to release all future DLC and expansions free of charge, it really does help justify that $40 price tag, to me at least. As a side tangent, one thing I keep seeing which still blows my mind is people begging Paralives to release paid DLC. One person on Twitter said this: "I wouldn't mind paying for some bigger upgrades, especially if it contained a few DLCs known from The Sims like pets and weather." Another person said, "I love that there's free DLC, but how are they gonna make money?" A lot of comments of people who are very concerned about how Paralives plans to make money. Gee, I don't know, maybe the same way every other fucking game that isn't live service slop makes money? I swear, EA's ability to brainwash an entire player base needs to be studied. This person saying, "I want to pay for weather and pets DLC for Paralives instead of getting it for free like they told us they would." Who says that? They literally already said they're gonna add pets. I think they said dogs, cats, and horses for free, as well as seasons in the future. So why are Sims players coming on here and saying, "I'd prefer to pay for it instead"? You guys must be the ops, as far as I'm concerned. Capitalism's best fucking friend. This is what 10 years of paying for DLC does to a person. It makes me sick. Live service games have indoctrinated players. It's scary. But all of that pales in comparison to another huge source of drama for Paralives. And that is how Paralives has used influencers to market their game. They established a creator program and recruited a bunch of Sims creators, many of whom are currently working with EA to promote The Sims 4, and these people are calling themselves Paralives partners. Now, it is important to note here that unlike The Sims, these people are not getting paid to promote the game. I mean, they are getting the game for free, which is technically a form of payment, but they're not getting handed cash or $500 designer bags like The Sims influencers do. Yes, that's a real thing that happens.
Are you kidding me? She's gorgeous!
Dystopian. I know. But anyway, about the Paralives partners. A few days prior to the game's release, a post appeared on the game's official subreddit, and it got a ton of people riled up. The post was simply titled Satch on Sims.
Thank you very much to Paralives for gifting me an early copy of the Paralives early access release.
For those who don't know, Satch on Sims is a popular Sims 4 YouTuber who's kind of well known for being super critical of the game, and we love that. We love a good corporate critique over here, but his criticism of The Sims 4 wasn't the problem in this case. Here's what the post said. Yesterday evening till night, I was watching each and every video of early access of Paralives that I could find. Today, I'm continuing that. That's where I found out that Satch on Sims apparently also received the free copy of early access. I'm sorry to his fans, but seriously? The guy complaining about woke stuff, black and rainbow washing, his words, and has a literal far-right second YouTube channel? Wow. For me personally, this is a big mistake on Paralives' side. I'm very happy with other people who got early access, but this one, hopefully this is not too controversial to post and I can critique this decision freely. It's not an attack, just for me personally, this doesn't make sense and made me lift my eyebrows. Within a couple hours of this post, it had racked up over 1,000 upvotes and nearly 300 comments, most of which were agreeing with the poster. To those of you who are just now hearing of this controversy, it might sound a bit dramatic and completely out of left field, but let me give you the context. For several years, Satch on Sims has made videos where he's complaining about woke video games like The Sims 4, as well as wokeness in other forms of media.
As a person, I can categorically say I am not woke, and I know a lot of people in the Sims community are very, very woke. The Sims has always been very, very diverse and woke. I'm literally so sure that the Sims team is a bunch of really, really woke people who are totally obsessed with inclusivity and diversity. It's these woke attacks. This is why the woke brigade are gonna start yelling at me.
He's made these remarks on his main channel, Satch on Sims, as well as his second channel called Satch on Stuff, where he's created videos like this one called The Woke Agenda is Destroying Hollywood.
The current Snow White, obviously she's not pale based on her ethnic background. You think they would hire an actress with at least very pale skin of European origin.
Apparently he really cares what fictional characters look like. Besides this whole labeling of diversity as woke, Satch on Sims has also made really ignorant comments like this one where he said migrants in the UK aren't future doctors, they're future Uber drivers.
These people are not our future doctors and nurses, they are our future Uber Eats and Deliveroo couriers.
He made this video titled I'm a black mask lesbian. He constantly refers to Sims players as woke snowflakes, and in the past I've heard him say things like he doesn't acknowledge people's pronouns because he doesn't believe in non-binary people.
If you believe in the whole concept of non-binary genders, good for you.
Some of you might hear these things and think, oh, it's just his opinion, he's allowed to have one. But here's the problem. Satch on Sims is parroting a lot of the same dialogue that we hear from far-right, anti-woke, bigoted talking heads.
First of all, what the heck is woke? It is one of many words that has been sort of adopted more recently by right-wing conservatism, largely. This conversation around wokeism gone mad is potentially using moderate people as part of a hateful agenda of racism and bigotry.
So when we put all of this in perspective, we can kind of understand why people might be mad that he was chosen by Paralives to represent and promote their game. In any other scenario, all of this would be irrelevant, because we don't know the political or social views of 99% of Sims or Paralives content creators, right? But the reason it's different in this case is because he is making these videos that he's posting publicly, and a lot of the shit he says is weird as fuck. I'm sorry. Satch on Sims has been throwing around this word woke for years.
The Sims is not the only video game to be destroyed by wokeness in the recent years.
So I'm not gonna buy any excuses that he's just ignorant and doesn't understand the implications of using that term. Satch on Sims is well aware of the meaning of that word. This video is proof of that. That word, woke, carries a lot of weight. When people use that term, they're using it to make fun of and undermine define any type of diversity and inclusion. When you go around complaining about the woke mob or the woke agenda every time you encounter diversity or inclusion in media, it makes you sound like a far-right bigot. Even if Satchon Sims isn't far-right politically, the language he's using, these dog whistles, give the impression that he holds bigoted beliefs. That is a natural conclusion to come to. So circling back to this Reddit post, I completely understand where the person who wrote this is coming from. Why would the Paralives team choose someone like him to promote their game? Someone who doesn't appear to value diversity or inclusion, two things that by the looks of this game are very important to the Paralives team. It's weird. But anyway, I think I heard someone say that there's about 30 different Paralives partners.
So there were around 30 creators who were invited to be part of the Paralives Partner Program and will be involved in future updates.
And again, any of those people could be bigoted or have weird anti-woke views or whatever. That's not the issue. People are allowed to have whatever beliefs they want, even if it makes them look really stupid. But the issue here, again, is that Satchon Sims is saying these things publicly, and by giving him the privilege of being a Paralives partner, the Paralives team is essentially endorsing him. They're choosing to affiliate themselves and their game with someone who has made bigoted remarks. That's not cool at all. I'm sorry. As much as I love this game and I really see the potential in this, they fucked up. Now, at first, this post appeared to have been deleted just a few hours after it was posted, but then later it reappeared, and this time there was a pinned comment from a Paralives moderator. Keep in mind that this is the official Paralives subreddit, and there are members of the Paralives team who are mods on this subreddit. But anyway, this is what that pinned comment said. We appreciate the concern and input on this topic. The developers have been made aware of this and are actively looking into it. We will be keeping this post up at this time, but please remember to stay civil and respectful in the comments. Now, as far as I'm aware, Satchon Sims is still a Paralives partner, and he actually addressed this whole drama in a recent live stream. Here's what he said.
The whole thing was just people making baseless allegations and bullying me. So what is there to actually look into? Even if I was politically right, that is actually not a problem. Paralives should be a game for everybody. There was all these hate comments about me that were just being left up there, and hate comments about other creators were being removed. People are just throwing me into a narrative that I actually don't want, and it's pissing me off, and it's actually got nothing to do with me.
It's not landing with him, that he's saying incendiary shit that we hear from a lot of far-right talking heads, a lot of bigoted people who are racist and sexist and xenophobic and transphobic.
I would encourage you to consider, just sit on the fact for a minute, that the majority of the mainstream biggest proponents of anti-wokeism are racist, sexist, homophobic, etc.
So why is he surprised that people see him saying these things and then they come to the conclusion that he is also a far-right bigot?
Like racist, sexist, transphobic, far-right conservative. They love to call me all these things, and I genuinely don't know fucking why.
For the life of me, I can't understand what he's not getting about this. In this live stream, he chalks the entire Reddit post up to lies and suggests that people are just jealous that he got early access as a Paralives partner.
Yeah, God forbid you just want to play a game and have fun with it. I think maybe they were jealous that I got early access.
Now, at the end of the day, it doesn't appear that anything has come of this. In other words, the Paralives team hasn't done shit to address this as far as we know. Yes, it is Paralives' decision, but is this who they want to be associated with? I mean, if you do, have at it, babes. But in the future, if he says more out-of-pocket shit, they can't claim ignorance and act like they don't know what he's saying online, because this Reddit moderator is confirming, literally acknowledging that the devs know exactly what's going on here. Over the years of me observing the Sims community, I've seen Satchon Sims get a lot of hate simply because he's very critical of the game, and I do feel bad for him when that happens. But in this case, I do not think he's a victim. And to be honest with you, this is part of the risk of using influencers to promote your products. Just in general, you guys know I'm not a fan of game studios using gaming creators like this to market their games to us. I think it's rarely beneficial to the players. I don't think Paralives needs a partner program for their game to be successful. And even though Paralives isn't paying these people or sending them gifts, moving forward, I hope, as one comment said, they do a better job of vetting the influencers they task with promoting their game. But I do want to end things here on a positive note and say I'm very excited for the future of Paralives. Sims. Truly, I haven't felt this hopeful for the life sim genre in years. And that's not something I say lightly, by the way. We all know that The Sims 4 is a dumpster fire, and the fact that EA is now being acquired by an authoritarian regime and the Trump family. The Sims franchise is dead to me, and I think it's dead to many of you as well. There's no coming back from that. But now with Paralives, there's actually a light at the end of the tunnel, because we have an alternative to The Sims. To be clear, I'm not hopeful for Paralives simply to spite EA. If I thought this game was dog shit, I would tell you guys straight up. But rather, I'm hopeful because I see the vision for what Paralives could be. It has the building blocks and the foundation to become a very solid, entertaining, long-lasting life simulation game. And I know not everyone is gonna agree with that, but just with the early access alone, this small indie team has brought so much innovation to this genre. It's amazing. An open world, a color wheel, no generative AI, no nickel and diming players and treating them like a cash cow. A game that's made by a studio that actually values and respects us. Truly, EA and The Sims 4 should be shaken in their boots right about now. All Paralives needs now is some goon mods and they're good to go.
Thank you.